Yeah, you just love to talk very loud, you know.
It's booming.
It's a booming voice, yeah.
Okay, let's get into it.
Very erotic.
Sehr erotisch.
Sehr erotisch.
Sehr erotisch. Die Waveform.
Sehr erotisch, how loud you talk.
Oh, talking sehr loud in the laboratory,
Echt geil,
just so I can be
diese
heard.
Waveform.
Over the sounds of squelching.
Mein Pussy ist
All I can hear is
aufgedrippt.
arsch noises.
Okay, all right. Hello, everybody.
Ausgemoist.
Hello, everybody.
Ausgemeistert.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm sorry to everybody who tuned in to this episode to listen to some sensible discussion of what's happening with
No, the listeners
trains.
turn themselves in at the start of every episode. Turning up to reporting to podcast prison.
Yeah, it is my pleasure to once again introduce one of our most requested and frequently returned guests. It's Rail Natter's Gareth Dennis joining the rest of the gang. Gareth, how's it going?
I'm all right. Yeah, I'm not doing too badly. I mean, that's no, actually, I'm going to correct myself on that. I'm really angry. I'm smashing my head against the table. Everything is getting worse and worse. But then that's true of everything in Britain right now. So
Yeah.
I can't complain too much.
Yeah, we're going to be talking after we do a few of the other sort of front matter, because I have some doozies of old friends to revisit. After we do some of that, about the continuing dismantling of Britain's rail network as a kind of excellent way in to think about the state, the relationship between the state and people. And I even think it's worth comparing to some of what Tony Blair's written about the future of the NHS, because there are actually quite a few parallels in their different visions. It's just that in some ways, the degeneration of the rail system is like more visible. It's more visible and made of stuff. You can see it and touch it, and you can see the ticket man go away.
There is one key similarity between the rail system and the NHS in that neither of them will be functioning. You won't be able to use either.
But before we get into that, I just want to raise a breaking news item.
Okay.
It appears as though the woke Marxist Communist Federation of Britain is once again turning against its veterans.
Wait, no one consulted me on this.
And its its charity campaigners, as the Sir Tom Foundation
Captain Major Tom
has had their business critical spa pulled down that was built in his daughter's garden.
No, not the spa. Why did she build a corner shop in her own garden? She just really wanted to be able to buy, like, you know, poppers and cheap pastries.
This is
a moment's walk.
I'm quoting from Metro newspaper here. The family of Sir Captain Tom Moore have been accused of using a charity set up in the late veteran's name to build a spa and pool complex in their garden.
Absolutely incredible. Well, you know, they're a family all about the garden. They get their old relative to walk around in the garden. Now they're building a spa in the garden.
Yeah, indoor thing. The next generation can like swim laps of the garden to raise money for the NHS.
Yeah. The use of the word complex really makes it sound like they've built like a council leisure centre in there rather than just a pool and a sauna or whatever. Like they've built just like a full on, like, you know, it's got a gym in there. It's got like it's got a nursery school.
It is a 50 foot by 20 foot building. So there are multiple rooms inside this.
Oh my God.
Relatively. So
they want to become Russian oligarchs. They want to get murdered with a crossbow. This is what they're looking for.
They want to become Russian oligarchs, but like on a Britain budget. And so they
perfect.
Yeah, perfect. So they're doing Russian oligarch shit in what is reported to be like a just north of £1 million home.
Okay, yeah, fine.
They miss a trick by not calling it the Captain Tom Onsen.
Captain Thompson.
Yeah. Now, they said
Yeah.
that the space was urgently required for presentations and memorabilia.
In a pool?
The thing is, awarding like swimming certificates and stuff in Captain Tom's memory. The thing is, like, we were legally prevented from calling this, but I want you all to know that we kind of did privately.
Yes.
You know, everyone is agreeing with me in DMs, but like, no, we fully did say to ourselves, as I'm sure many of you did, looking at the Captain Tom Foundation, this seems like the sort of foundation that might be about to spend a lot of money on a commemorative combination spa onsen swimming pool complex.
Well, it was a museum pool and sauna. Like, the sauna was full of memorabilia. You know, they had the Zimmer frame in there. Like, don't touch it because it's really fucking hot.
Yeah.
Like, don't. Like, you will burn. Your skin will graft to the frame of the Zimmer.
It is the world's first sauna for patriotic heterosexuals.
That's
and
true.
I
That's
think
true.
that
the
is beautiful.
stones in the sauna, the shape of a poppy. Just, something to consider.
You can go there and you can suck the dicks of our remaining World War II veterans.
Oh,
They're in there relaxing. It's a sort of like a retirement community.
yeah.
You can show the Germans what for.
One veteran at a time. Yeah, that's it.
Look, and the fact that the woke Marxist Charity Commission that clearly wants to do Britain down is preventing because they clearly hate Britain and they don't love that someone was selfless, right? Because they want everyone to be selfless in their way, right? And they're like, oh, we hate the museum pool.
Is it a crime to make your elderly dad do 10,000 push-ups an hour in order to fund the NHS, make him into a national hero, get a free holiday with him to Barbados where he catches the novel coronavirus and dies, use his likeness to form a charity foundation that does no distinguishable charity, but then buys you a pool? Is that a crime? I'm genuinely asking.
I don't think it should be.
Yeah. Yeah. Is
it a crime to have
Lock me up and
mindset?
throw away the key.
Yeah.
Is it a crime to grind, to dream, to go
Then
that
lock
1%
me up
further?
in the veterans gay sauna and throw away the key.
Is it a crime to go to the Captain Tom Museum and kind of pretend to feel traumatized by all the World War II memorabilia and then have a relaxing time in the spa afterwards? Because that is what the troops would have wanted.
Yeah, having a solemn wank, yeah.
You know what else? You say one other thing, though, is everyone's talking about preventative medicine, and then the people actually trying to save the NHS build a relaxing sauna so they don't get heart attacks, and they're saving the NHS from even more spending, and now everyone's mad about it. It's really hypocritical.
The thing that's really funny about this, too, is, aside from everything else we've just discussed, that they built the spa onsen complex with retrospective planning permission, which is... I love this. It's one of the few regulatory things in Britain that I think we do well, is a kind of hubris trap for upper middle class people, which is best documented in my favorite TV show, Grand Designs, where we go, yeah, okay, you can build something, and then after you've built it, you can ask us whether it's allowed to be built. And if we say no, you have to knock it back down again. And that's what they've done.
I love photos of the knocking down bit, particularly when it ends up in the tabloids, and there's just some picture of some guy in jeans and a blazer, pointing angrily at his house with them as a digger. It's like on one side it's a farm shed, and on the other side it's like a mansion to get around the planning permission. There's just a digger, a JCB with a council worker kind of sat in it. Oh, it's beautiful. I love that.
The neighbours are having a great time with this. This is every British neighbour's dream, getting to knock down your neighbour's fucking spa complex.
This is what New Labour are going to do. This is what Starmer's Labour is going to do. It's going to give everyone the ability to drive the JCB through their neighbour's house if their music is on too.
Yeah, they get the one from the Get Brexit Done publicity stuff.
The rule is going to be that it's like the fence, is that you can drive through your neighbor's house on the right, but they can also your neighbor on the left can drive through you. Every house in Britain knocked down, housing crisis solved.
It'd be housing dominoes is just this string of demolitions working its way across the country.
Regular listeners to the show, they will be sad to hear this news because, of course, they will be very familiar with the Sailors Gay Sauna in Limehouse. And I think the Captain Memorial Major Tom's Foundation's attempts to build the Royal Navy Sailors Gay Sauna should have been met with more respect for our veterans.
Well, maybe they should have made it look a bit nicer. It looked like fucking Osama bin Laden's house.
Yeah, they should have had Osama bin Laden in there.
He was really rich, though.
They should have had Osama bin Laden's body at the bottom of the pool.
You just
like a Madame Tussauds figure.
The Council Black Hawk helicopter collapsing due to a rotor effect onto the wall of the Captain Tom.
Well, hang on.
Covering this, going to have a cross section of the building, and underneath the swimming pool will be a compartment with Osama bin Laden's body just in it.
All right, we know he was buried at sea, but we're moving on. I want to revisit some old friends.
Under a swimming pool's at sea, surely.
Yeah. That's what I mean. He was buried at sea. A swimming pool can count.
In Islamic law, technically technically.
Like slowly pushing the totally dead corpse of Osama bin Laden into the swimming pool.
They built the Captain Tom Memorial Pool, and the whole thing faces Mecca. It's a conspiracy.
All right. We're revisiting some old friends. These are two SoftBank friends, both of which have had some difficulties.
No.
We talked a couple of years ago, actually. I looked in my own archives to be sure. We did. There was a social media app called IRL that was trying to be like WhatsApp with a calendar function.
Awesome. I'm sold.
And yeah, because your phone isn't just WhatsApp with a calendar function.
Yeah, no one has ever combined WhatsApp with looking at the calendar on their phone. That's too crazy.
This probably goes up and down. It doesn't go side to side.
Now, this was a messaging app that reached a $1.2 billion valuation after SoftBank put $170 million into it. It was the Vision Fund 2, the one with the Kazakhs in. And then it described itself as the leading group messaging social network that brings people together through events and shared experiences. Our primary goal at IRL has always been to create authentic, organic communities to help users spend more time with their friends in the real world and boost their overall happiness.
Boo.
Claiming that they had 20 million monthly active users who chatted about shared interests and planned real-world events together. A spokesperson...
That's legitimate. 20 million users, that's,
quite a few.
I'm sure all of them are real.
Well,
we
planning real-world events like 9/11.
So, what happened is that the board of directors recently concluded that 95% of those users were bots, and the company is now worthless.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, who could have foreseen it?
Yeah, that's what happens. Like, it's that we're seeing now the last vestiges of some of those season 3 companies kind of collide with reality a little bit.
I was a little bit suspicious when there were so many girls from Japan saying that they had just arrived in my city and were looking for a guy to show them around, and they were really impressed by my tweets.
Yeah, and they were, oh wow, if your tweets are that impressive,
do
you have a lucky credit card number?
all these real women are always messaging me on Twitter to say they're interested in all that is unknown to them, including the gay sauna at the Captain Tom Memorial Complex.
So, turns out IRL, that thing we said was incredibly stupid and would never work, turns out it is incredibly stupid and didn't work.
Scoreboard, once again.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is rapidly becoming the scoreboard round,
Yeah. Although, again, don't look at that one thing we missed. Look at the rest of the things we nailed. We've been nailing it more than missing it ever since 2019.
I mean, I had the tweet that was like, COVID's probably not going to be anything. So I'm like, X number of startups we've got right, 4-2.
I want to do another SoftBank startup as well. Now, this one is one I refer to a lot because it's such a fun idea. But I talk about Vue all the time as an example of a dumb company. It's the company that makes smart windows that tell you that know if it's raining, but also like that auto tint to save energy allegedly.
God, it's a classic.
Yeah.
So you can't
Windows
see
2023.
if it's raining. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Well, so Vue has let's say their former chief financial officer is being let's say he's in a spot of bother.
Oh no.
Did he build an onsen in the wrong place?
Yeah, it wasn't facing Mecca, which apparently it happened.
Yeah, woke Muslim SEC.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because he had Saddam Hussein buried in the pool.
So basically, Vue has had to disclose a number of liabilities related to manufacturing replacement windows because, let's say, some of the windows they made were defective. It turns out that they were supposed to disclose 22 to 25 million of those liabilities. Instead, should have disclosed up to 53 million of those liabilities, leading to, let's say, some action.
How hard is it to make a window?
Well, how hard is it to make a better window? I guess you could ask.
Very, apparently.
I presume that's not hit their share price though. They're still a robust company trading real products.
Well, they were backed by SoftBank, so they must be. SoftBank's in aggressive mode now, so surely it's gonna.
Wouldn't you know it? Vue. Well, the thing is, right? SoftBank actually took Vue and said, "This is such a good company. We want to share it with you, the general public." And so took it public via SPAC. You remember SPACs?
Yeah, of course.
Love them.
Special Purpose
SPAC,
Acquisition Corporation. Yeah, we love them.
Yeah. But the way it's like, I hate knowing all that stuff about the stuff I'm going to invest in. I'd rather buy a fun lottery ticket.
Yeah, you can have like stock in BP or whatever, or you can have the mystery box.
Precisely. Wouldn't you know it? View's share price. Actually, I don't think any of you have seen this. They're down since the SPAC merger. How far do you think they're down? Starting with our guest.
Like what? 50% down, right?
Okay. All right, Hussein. How far down are they?
I'm going to go for 85.
Okay, Milo.
Is it 90?
Alice.
I think Gareth has it right. I think it's the kind of thing that like knocks half the value off the company that the thing doesn't work. That's a minor thing, you know?
Closest without going over is Milo. It's 99.
I like 1% being left is very funny.
The market self-corrects, I guess, this one time.
They were like, it's still worth something. Like, they've got a bunch of like pens and paper and stuff in there that we can buy a sale.
It's still the printer.
It's not just this one event that knocked it all down, right? But this obviously isn't very good and shows that their product might be not so great. However, the shares are now worth 12.8 cents. Down from 10, because all SPACs, if you remember, were 10.
That's 12.8 cents market cap. Each individual share is worth a tiny fraction.
Yeah. So, another company that we said was stupid, and unfortunately, like that loss, like SoftBank got out. SoftBank was bailed out by the SPAC company, which was then bailed out by Rubes, essentially.
So no consequences other than the fact that you have to look out of a regular, boring window to see whether it's raining or not.
A stupid window.
Since View collapsed, my View subscription to my Windows is no longer valid, and they're just black screens. It's completely dark in my office.
I wonder. Remember cooler screens?
Oh, yeah, for the coolers.
I wonder if that would happen, if you could brick cooler screens, if, like, the company goes out of business, and then you can't see in the freezer
I don't know which Monster Energies I have.
I have to open the damn thing.
Or is it like Attorneys General? Is it Monsters Energy?
Yeah. Write in. Don't write in. One last bit of front matter I want to discuss before we move on, which is, of course, I need a little bit of Starmer updates, because he's the gift that keeps on giving, unless you want to
We need a moderate amount of Starmer update, the correct amount done in moderation.
He's the gift that keeps on giving if you like to see a sort of puffy weirdo acting strange on TV.
Yeah, and it was so funny. He gave a speech about giving good speeches that both was not a good speech and was then interrupted as a speech.
I think, if I analyze, it wasn't interrupted. It was aggressively protested and shouted down.
Excuse me.
It wasn't.
He was killed.
It was a very aggressive response from those two polite kids.
The contrast of how he described it to like what actually happened, which is these two kids
murdered.
going, Mr. Starmer, you didn't respond to our email about the Green New Deal. It's like, well, anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's
Did you see his tweet afterwards, Matt? Did you guys see his tweet that he did after?
We did. I'll say it. He said, I and the working people of this country will not be shouted down. Now, it takes some inference, right? It does take some active inference to connect that to the goings on of the school. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if, this is a guy who schedules all of his tweets or has someone do it 7 days in advance. But you got to admit, it's a bit coincidental. And even then, the fact that he is so clearly fucking rattled while being asked why his cut all climate investment pledge is the same as the Tories' cut all climate investment pledge. It's just Labour's cutting $28 billion of promised money, and the Tories are only cutting $13 billion of promised money. And then we'll sort of solve the climate change stuff later. But
the Labour number is higher, so that's better.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Whenever he goes out in public, like, he always gets accosted because people are inherent, and funnily enough, it's not all just trots who are inherently disappointed in him. Just a lot of people are just inherently disappointed in him. And it seems to happen all the time. Like, his spads are just useless at skirting away from people. And he always seems to just look utterly personally insulted by it. Like, he does not weather this stuff well.
He's going to be so good at when he's like in an election.
Sort of a DeSantis mood, the kind of like affrontedness and the weirdness.
Yeah. Oh my God, we're going to get a DeSantis by default.
Sunak's going to be like
Starmer.
Meatball Starmer. Keith Stenardo.
Lovely.
You can't even.
So
you do sound like a 3-foot man when you do when you do Rishi.
Yeah, whenever you imagine the voice of Rishi Sunak, you've got to imagine him like tugging at your skirts and looking up at you, like asking for a mini meal. It's very important that we get the economy right.
Yeah, that's actually. I like how you psychologically go into your impressions. It's really fun.
You've got to do it. It's about the inhabiting the being.
It's kind of Richard Ayoade, right?
It's quite
feels
close.
like
it's
yeah,
quite
It
close.
is,
Yeah.
it is satisfyingly close. Yeah,
It's Ayoade, but a bit more lispy. This is a momentous occasion.
So. I want to go back to this speech, right? Where it's again, he is showing a sense of personal affrontedness at being challenged. And it's sort of an affront that says, well, at least I promised you more before taking all of it away due to fiscal rules. And again, it boggles the because we've talked about this, right? How investment, especially in energy, especially in renewable energy, and especially in transport infrastructure, which we'll talk about in a sec, is deflationary. That is all deflationary.
Especially if you work for the Danish state energy company.
It's like, no. We have to just keep on stripping bits out of this thing until it sort of magically fixes itself.
It's so dispiriting because I know we're going to get into this momentarily, but we've seen this pattern in transport, in railways particularly, where the Tories do the huge violent thing, or rather they set the pieces on the board. So back in the day with the reshaping report, the famous Beeching report, the Tories delivered it, but actually it was Labour who did all the cuts and stuff. They didn't reverse it, they just delivered it. Privatisation, 1997, the Act was placed, the stuff happened, Labour could have reversed it, but they didn't. And we're seeing enormous cuts now in the run-up to a general election, a load of, as we're getting to, a load of political capital being burned by the Tories, and they don't care because they know that Labour will just deliver it. I'd love them not to, but the precedent is set by Labour. It's so dispiriting, and exactly as you say, everything that Starmer has said just lines us up for an enormous disappointment.
Labour's political strategy is like the Marshall Mathers Papa Doc rap battle strategy, where he's just like, we're going to cut the NHS. We're going to cut Green New Deal spending. We're going to cut the railways. Now tell them something you're going to cut that I haven't already thought of.
And I mean, it's of course, it's no surprise, right, that this is someone I don't think can be trusted to, for example, reverse what has already happened to the railways under the Tories and the rest of it as well. And what they've just now, well, when I say they've just announced, it's a little bit confusing, but let's go into our train section. Toot toot. I'm shoveling the coal. I'm putting on my little hat. We're talking trains.
Does that mean we get to end on pudding? Does that mean we get to end the episode on pudding? I'm so excited by that. Okay, good.
We may.
Well, there's no way to talk about Sir Keir Starmer.
Yeah, old pudding Keir.
Yeah, that's right.
So, can you tell me just a little bit about...
He eats pudding with his fingers.
Can you just tell me, please, what is the major transformation that has happened in British rail infrastructure in the last couple of days, and who is behind it? Because everyone seems to be saying someone else is behind the decision.
Yeah, so I've been on I think 5 times previously talking about various shenanigans and nonsense on our railways. So we're in an environment post-COVID. We're in an environment where the railways, the general accepted cross-party consensus of railways are good, actually has been completely that bubble has burst, and we've just seen the railways being degraded. And the thing that was announced literally yesterday, in fact, but it's been teased. The unions were saying, "Oh, this is a problem." Mick Lynch was talking about this last year. It's been teased and leaked, and now we've got the actual formal news yesterday of almost all ticket offices in stations across England, so not Wales, not Scotland, just England, are going to be closed. And it's not just small ones. We're talking London Euston. We're talking Glasgow Central. We're talking absolutely enormous. Yeah, Glasgow Central, weirdly, because Avanti, which is an English train operating company, Glasgow in Scotland, but that ticket office will close even though it's in Scotland. I know that's a bit weird. That Britain is strange. Yeah, we're nicking your ticket office, Alex. So we're seeing a huge number of ticket offices, hundreds and hundreds of ticket offices closing. And the plan for these, so it's not going to happen overnight, but the plan is basically government has so kind of addressing your last point, this has come from government. So we're seeing the legal process. This is a bit Beeching-y, actually, because this is way back referring to actually kind of echoes of the laws from the 1960s. There is a quite complicated legal process to do this, to actually close ticket offices. It's a bit like closing a railway or closing a railway station. You have to go through a statutory process. And the train operating companies, or what's left of them, they're basically run as contract companies now. They have to coordinate that process. But they're not the ones who made the decision. The decision has come, DFT have pushed this. They're pushing it under their kind of, and I'm using enormous rabbit ears here, modernization program to make the railway more lean and more efficient, which obviously is bollocks. So that's what's being proposed. Huge closure of ticket offices across the country.
Sort of a minor question here. What about the people who need those?
Oh golly, I'm sure. I mean, yeah, we'll get into it. But this, I'll very, very briefly summarize before kind of Riley continues to weave the yarn. But basically, this is going to hit accessibility massively. So we have a railway system that is deeply inaccessible. So whether that's in terms of people who are partially sighted or blind, there's the ticket machines have a flat screen and absolutely nothing tactile about them. So like there is, how do those people buy a ticket? In terms of accessibility of getting on trains, big gap between the platform and the train. In terms of actually getting onto the platform itself, no lifts in most stations. There's a huge gap in accessibility. So most people can't get onto trains, so they need help. And the consistent feedback from disabled travelers is, we like to know that there is a person in a ticket office that we know we can go to. I don't want to struggle going along that massive ramp to find someone on a platform in a crowded station to try and get help. I know that if there's a ticket office, I can get help there. But also it's like the fact that the railway has, lots of passengers who don't get our incredibly complicated ticketing system. So for getting advice, the ticket office is incredibly useful. And there are loads of types of ticket you have to buy in a station as well that you can't get online, like rovers and all sorts of things that people use, tourists use, people who are critically and crucially, and this plays into so much that you talk about, Riley, in other situations, particularly when I was thinking the other day about supermarkets and about the fact that everything is getting more expensive. So everything's like the fancy box of cookies. You can't just get a crap box of Tesco value cookies anymore. Well, this is true in the railways as well. So like they're excluding people from those cheaper fares, the fares that people who have not a lot of money can use to travel around. Those often you can only, like a situation where you can often buy those only in booking offices. And essentially by getting rid of booking offices, those numbers of tickets will decrease. So there'll be a justification just getting rid of those tickets. So it's all playing into these problems of accessibility, of the advice, and of course the fact that it's a massive ruse to just Thanos tens of thousands of staff across the railway. More than half of staff in certain railway companies will just be Thanos after this. Will just be sacked.
And it's worth saying as well, right? Like this is that all of what we're talking about is the removal. The plan is ostensibly to remove the ticket office, right? To allow people to only buy tickets based on interfacing with some kind of electronic device, whether it's your phone, a machine, or whatever. And then what they say is, well, yeah, 85% of tickets are sold that way, to which I say, well, hang on, isn't 15% of your revenue still quite a bit of revenue?
Yeah, hundreds of millions of pounds a year. 1 in 9 tickets are sold in a booking office in a station. That's
cool,
not a small number.
Isn't it? How the British government likes to occasionally return to the Jenga tower of the British Railway that collapsed so long ago, a game of Monopoly is taking place around it, and just pick up a bunch more of the blocks and just throw them into a wood chipper and just be like, it's innovation, you cunts. Don't you like, isn't it better now? Don't you like it now that there's less? Why would you need to buy a ticket? What for?
To talk to a bloke.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and even then,
to
right?
go to the gay sauna, the veterans sauna.
So let's bring that one step further, right? Let's follow the government's logic here. Because you could say, all right, well, look, we're going to put a person who wanders around the station helping people. We're just going to take them out of the ticket office.
Railway Ronin.
Right? Yeah, we're gonna have the railway Ronin who wanders masterless around the station. The railway ghost. There's gonna be a helpful ghost will haunt the railway station.
The railway used to be run on more of a shogunate basis, but now I'm bound by nothing more than a code of honor.
Well, no, you could say they've been banished to the platform to build a better. No, let's not go there.
That is basically how the Japanese train system does work. More on that some other time. But let's keep following the government's logic here, right?
It's because let's say that it is reasonable to close that channel and encourage people onto other channels. You would need to, for example, retool all of the ticket machines to make them accessible to partially sighted people by making braille happen for them. You would need to start enabling people to get those other kinds of tickets right away. You would need to not actually fire people, just change their job description to be like station attendant rather than ticket sales.
Well, you'd need railway ASIMO.
Yeah, you would. If anything, it's you can see, like, anytime someone says, "Oh, you're just afraid of technology or progress going forward."
You get this within. This is happening within industry. So actually, this has been more than any other modernization rabbit ears stuff that's happened in the last couple of years. This is the thing that I think has been felt. It's really obvious the industry doesn't want this. Unlike a few of the other things where it was like, oh, well, it's the unions are pushing back and this is just how it is. This has not been met like that. Even people quite far up the chain have responded with, well, the Office of Rail and Road, which is ostensibly the regulator, and yes, they've absolutely regulatory capture and they have absolutely no teeth, but they were doing passive-aggressive tweeting of statistics today about how many travellers use assistance at stations. So even you're getting this sort of weird passive-aggressive tweeting going on from organisations that are like, this is a shit idea, oh my God. But yeah, this is absolutely. So
our innovation plan is being subtweeted.
So yeah, a lot of the language that's being used is like, oh, we're taking the staff from behind glass and putting them in front of glass. Like we're putting them out, but we're taking them out from the glass box, and passengers are going to see them. But you're alluding to the fact that what that means is a skilled staff person who's a unionized employee of the railway is going to be swapped out for someone on a 0 or low hours contract who is an employee of Mighty, or like G4S or something, or Serco, and has nothing to do with is nothing to do with the actual railways. They don't have, they've done an hour and a half online course on what a railway ticket is,
and they've been pushed onto the concourse and told to just get amongst it, which is very funny from an accessibility point of view, because unless they're going up and soliciting people. If you can't see well, for instance, unless you just hook a little thing to the back of the high-vis that just occasionally in a monotone just says staff or whatever, and you got to find one. There's no high-vis braille. They don't make bumps that big.
Yeah, you're just a gigantic bump.
Like a sea urchin.
Yeah.
Just walking head first into a massive bump.
He actually blinded someone who walked into him.
Yeah.
Yeah, just have a tall conducting staff that sticks out of their hat adjacent to the electrified overhead wires. That's how everyone will know where they are, yeah.
Because you can sort of see who they imagine is the only person they want using the railways from a plan like this. The only person they want using the railways is a man between the ages of 18 and 60 who is familiar with the area, who's probably going to work.
Yeah,
that's all.
And who is not going to be too distressed by any sort of cancellations or anything like that, because they somehow have a car in every car park along the way. This is the thing about rail. I got into this mindset one time. I understood this Tory mindset because once I splashed out, I invested your podcast money, listeners, in a first-class ticket. I apologize. Put me up against the wall. I posted a photo of a dog on the train, and someone immediately went, "Is that the first-class carpet, you piece of shit?" And I'm like, "Oh,
they'll
God.
Get you. Those train nerds, they'll get you."
Yeah. But
they're gooning your ass in the Welsh quote tweets.
Yeah. So I got this first-class ticket because I thought, this would be nice, and I was amongst people who were only traveling by train, not as a particular conveyance, but because they wanted to get somewhere in a leisurely way, because they wanted to get pissed in a respectable upper middle class way. That's the thing. That's the sole vision of anyone who travels by train. Commuting, no. Visiting anything, no. Tourism, no. It's I wanna go to London from Edinburgh or vice versa, and I want to have a few glasses of wine on the way.
In a chain bar, that's a Tory donors chain bar. Drink in there until you're sozzled, stay in a Tory donors chain hotel, and then go back on the train again.
And now that you're Bonnet Charles, you'll want to be at least a bit half cut before we get into the Captain Tom Memorial Sauna. I tell you what, some of those old men's cocks are not exactly hygienic.
There's precedent for this, rather, though, because the gate line staff, so the ticket barriers that we see at some stations, quite a lot of them are no longer part of quite a lot of them are now outsourced, low skilled, low salary. Well, not salary. They're on lower 0 hours contracts. So this is already happening. So when we're getting the government's going, the rail delivery group, which is this made up body that sort of represents the train operating companies back in the day when the train operating companies weren't just a briefly an outsourced contract organization. They're going, oh no, there's going to be skilled staff, and we're not going to be just swapping them out and sacking everyone. It's like, no, you've done this already. You've done this. You've brought in the low skilled worker who is on a precarious contract, doesn't have the knowledge, doesn't have the understanding of what accessibility needs are, which are quite complicated on a railway because everyone can use them. And so the trans-sector society is quite complex. You have to have a good understanding of different abilities that a 1 hour online course that you were delivered by like Mighty is just not going to cut it.
And probably also worth noting that even if they are sort of like trained, or like even if they are kind of like very good at their jobs, like the fact that this is sort of not even a job that's sort of been created, it is a job that is like exists because infrastructure has effectively been taken away, but they now end up in a position where they are far more overwhelmed, right? Because I think I've seen situations like that where you have like people who are kind of like definitely sort of need more access. They need like help to get up from the trains to the platforms, or they just sort of need to know where they're going. And you can see that like the person, or you have like two people maybe on the platform who are trying to help like multiple people, while also like trying to kind of navigate all these other people like desperately just trying to like get out. So like it's a really overwhelming and very stressful situation that even I imagine people who are decently trained will struggle with, because part of this is also like, how do you get all these kind of jobs to function using as few people as possible and paying them as well as possible?
I'll tell you the answer.
Absolutely.
It's an app.
Cool. Okay, fine. Right.
And you and Hussein, you're absolutely spot on, because not only does that mean that the environment for those workers is going to be much less pleasant. I mean, partly because they're going to be out in the bloody weather, and it's not as nice as being in a booking office where you can have a little heater next to you. But also flip that on its head. If this government is going to make savings from this, because the booking office is usually part of the station building, so are they just going to sell the station building to make that saving? Probably yes.
Yeah, that's going to be like more. You can buy pasties.
Well, it's going to become the Captain Tom Sawyer Memorial affiliate. It's going to be a franchise.
Think of like women travelers, girls, young women, whoever it is. The ticket office, the booking office, is a safe space where they can go in the evening if they're traveling, they don't feel comfortable. This is not, I'm not just making this up. This is a common thing of women who don't feel safe, have somewhere safe they can go. They can go and stand near the booking office or be in the booking office, somewhere warm, safe, if they don't feel comfortable. Instead, we're going to have the staff out and
the
about.
memorial sauna is going to be very warm.
Please go on. Toasty. So it's just exactly, you're absolutely spot on, Hussein. It goes both ways. Like this is, there is a key need for that asset that is clearly lost on Department of Transport and Treasury, because they're just seeing the conditional formatting on their spreadsheets.
I've taken this job on a railway. It's a fucking nightmare. I'm trying to show this one woman where the ticket machine is. Trouble is, for accessibility, they've also turned me into a giant bump, and I've got 5 blind women hanging on to me like I'm the second coming of Christ.
The thing it reminds me of too is that other great push for reform, in heavy air quotes, driverless trains, where you're like, we're going to make the railway, all of it, which has to interact with all of society, we're going to make it completely featureless and smooth, right? And there's never going to be anything that requires a human to do anything more than the most elementary sort of like reasoning involved. Everything's going to be within context, and everything's going to be something that we can eventually automate, right?
But even if like by the logic they're trying, like, because I'm like trying to follow their logic as well. And you have one element which is this like, okay, like clearly the sort of eradicating humans from public space, and by extension like getting rid of public space even like as a concept, like it's cruel and dehumanizing and awful. But then I also think to myself that like they're also doing it in the dumbest way possible, because they think that they can basically get, and I hate to bring Japan up again, but like lots of Japanese train stations are like this, where like lots of things are very automated, but like that's kind of designed efficiently. And even then there are still like people like the train station guys are like the ways that they work are very much like Shogun logic, right? But in Britain, you don't have that. And really what this is like, we want to get rid of as many people as possible and make these places kind of function without them so we don't have to pay them. But we also don't really want to put the money in order to do that. And so what we end up doing is making everything worse. Like the trains get worse, the stations get worse, nothing. And you know, and again, like this is very much just like a projection of literally any type of service in the UK now, where like the sort of arbitrary cost cutting for both ideological reasons and also because they just don't really want to commit to doing anything just means that you're left with, yeah, things are shit, everything's really bad, get used to it, don't like it, like there's the door, but also the door doesn't work. Like it's still like jammed shut. So like,
well, don't like it. There's the emergency
door is
cord.
Sealed to keep the heat in the sauna.
To pick up on that very briefly again, like if there's potentially an argument in some stations, particularly at suburban stations, not rural ones, but suburban stations, where you might say, well, actually, at certain times, maybe there is eventually a discussion about whether you have a permanently staffed booking office, but that conversation should only be happening after a massive fares reform, because the ticketing system in the UK, as all of us know, is baffling. It's completely bonkers, totally opaque, and particularly for anyone who's a casual user. And by the way, we want to double the number of passengers on the railway by the middle of the next decade for climate change reasons. We have to do that. This is the opposite of going to help. It's going to do the opposit,
and we're going to do that by doubling the capacity of the railway, right?
Of course, yeah. That's
No.
Oh.
What we're
Everybody
going to do
just
is
sit in everyone's laps. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's like your parents
Yeah.
driving you on holiday. Like, just sit in the lap. It's fine.
The rules of the sauna again.
so it is that you're going to have to like go through.
What if the train carriages were the sauna? Business.
Every single coach is a cross section, and at the bottom part there is a little. Anyway, sorry.
Look,
The trains only go towards Mecca.
Heaven help you if you want to go to Bristol. That's not happening. But there's another sort of element of this, right, that I think you sort of touched on, which is, and that Hussein has touched on as well, which is if you want to do this and still have the system work, it is possible. Right, let's just say, for the sake of argument, that you keep someone who's like a roving, helpful person who is unionized and who is well trained, it is experienced, and it does work. And you figure out how to like alert. Maybe they stand in a box, a little like taped off area most of the time.
You go very trad
know.
about this. You bring station masters back or whatever the fuck. Sure.
But what you have to do then is you have to retool every single ticket machine. You have to then rebuild. You don't have an app. Most people in Britain, when they buy a train ticket, they buy it through a private company that skims a little off the top. One of the only ways to buy a train ticket in Britain without a private company skimming a little bit more off the top is at a fucking ticket office.
Yeah.
You would then have to build an app, and it would have to be functional. It would have to be widely used, and it would have to work very well. And you would have to put all of these these things on it. You'd have to be able to get a photo card somehow without going to one of these offices. There are so many problems to solve before you can do this.
Just also as a side note, before I let you go, but like I just remembered of quite a funny story I had to go to. I did like a festival a few weeks ago, and I had to go up to Bradford. And we had bought e-tickets using the e-ticket app.
From an e-girl.
From an e-girl, yeah. Who was at the train station.
One of the only other ways you can actually buy a train ticket.
The e-girl. And in order to sort of get the sort of QR code that you needed to scan, you basically needed phone signal, because obviously the trains that we were taking up didn't have Wi-Fi. And that's another thing. They're getting rid of Wi-Fi on the trains. This is all good. It's great.
It's add to the pile of things Riley said. Like, there needs to be good Wi-Fi everywhere. Oh my god, yeah.
What do you need Wi-Fi for? Buy a train ticket. Where are you going?
to meet a bloke.
So the train ticket guy comes, and obviously he's trying to scan our tickets, and he's like, well, look, we have bought tickets, but there's like no signal here, and so we can't show you them. And he was like, you know, if you don't have a ticket, we have to fine you. It's like, yeah, but we have bought the ticket. It's just there's no signal. Like, look. And he's like, yeah, but if you haven't got a ticket, you are going to have to pay, and it's going to cost you like. And then he showed this price. It's like, yeah, but are you like? There is no signal. So we had to like wait for 20 minutes until you got like 1 bar of signal to show that like we had bought this ticket. Right?
It's unreal.
And it's just kind of like, well, actually, yes. So much of like moving everything to like these digital networks is also about making sure that all the digital coverage on mobile phones work. And I know that like, and that's something like that's like a separate question in and of itself, but like it is very much like, well, no, if you're going to like digitize everything, then the digital infrastructure has to sort of be functional.
What
throughout
if
the
your
country.
phone dies? Do you get fined now? Like, yeah,
literally, yes. So exactly, Hussein, and this Hussein, Riley, Alice, all of the things. So Alice, this is kind of true for the driverless thing as well, right? Okay, in an idealized situation, this would work. In an idealized situation, driverless trains would work. But the fact is that idealized situation requires billions of pounds of investment. It requires investment in infrastructure.
But Gareth, what if it didn't? What if we simply hoped for the best? I think a lot of the problem in Britain is that people are unwilling to simply hope for the best. People are saying the railway requires billions of pounds of investment, but what if we just closed our eyes and just felt for the man who's been turned into a giant bump and hoped that we got on the correct train and ended up at our destination? What if we believed enough that we ended up in a sauna, sucking on the penis of a Royal Navy veteran?
Well, I think maybe Starmer could suggest that Britain embraces its inner manic pixie dream girl and just gets on whatever train and sees where life takes you.
You could end up in Kettering, Chester Street,
or Mecca.
You could, you could start a new life in Kendal.
They closed the ticket office at Mecca. Sick of this shit.
So, right, this is...
Have you got your QR code that proves you're Muslim?
Yeah, they gave it to the...
sorry, if you're not got, I will have to be edger if I don't see it.
I do love that in the sort of fantasy world you create, that guy is everywhere.
Yeah, that's it. It's the Essex man is everywhere. It's like can't be touching a car but without a ticket.
He is a Joseph Campbell archetype now, I think. But
I'm saying you're circling this is the first class carber section.
He's like a character actor from the 1950s, but cast in every role.
Yeah, I love it. He's one of my favorite characters to hear from. So I want to go back to this idea of investment, right? Which is at some point, right? What we've seen is that trains tend to fail. Train companies tend to fail and find themselves forced nationalized by repeat government decree, forcing the train companies to, as you say, gamble on just pulling out random bits of the infrastructure so that you can save some money, right? At what point, what happens when, let's say, for example, a train company gets sued into fucking oblivion because someone is unable to access a train or, God forbid, hurts themselves, right? And they're disabled.
There is precedent for this on a variety of levels. Firstly, these proposals are massively in breach of the Equality Act 2010. I'm not a lawyer, but the only reason in hell that this won't go into court is because no one will be able to afford to bring it to court, and there'll be no space in courts to see it. Because honestly, this is the proposals are enormously discriminatory and enormously in breach of the EA 2010. Because I know this because existing conditions are in breach of EA 2010. There have been several legal cases about it, and painfully, people die as a result. As I've said before, possibly on this show, in fact, the most dangerous interface on our railway right now is people falling between the track, between the platform and the train, which is an interface that's an accessibility interface as a result of, one of the things, the issues is not having enough staff around to deal with it, or not investing in infrastructure to make sure that interface is minimized.
Oh, we need to make the roving guy, the way that you find him is that he has a speaker on him playing the Mind the Gap noise. At all times.
Mind the gap.
If you fail to mind the gap, we are not legally liable.
The thing is, they try that. That's what that literally is what the mind the gap thing is for. But yeah, and we've seen cases where railway operators have had a metaphorical and literal ton of bricks fall on them in order to get where they have to get new trains, update platforms and stations to deal with the accessibility issue. We saw that with Merseyrail after the fatality, about a decade ago. So there is precedent to this. These proposals are absolutely barking mad, not just from a what they mean for what we want as a public transport system, but in terms of like the here and now, in terms of how much they are not workable. The government's proposals are for as much of this to have happened by Christmas, which is baffling. The consultation process is supposedly going to take 2 to 3 years, which obviously then kicks it through into the next government. But the government's hope is that a lot of this will have happened by Christmas.
It's sort of reminiscent of World War One, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it'll be over by Christmas.
It'll be over by Christmas, don't worry about it.
Well, is that General Haig, but Baz?
Yeah, that's right. So, no, I'm going to. People call me the butcher of some, but I beg to differ.
Yeah, because I want to go back to this right as well. This what will happen? Because we've seen what happens, right? Which is that repeated governments create the conditions for the legs to get kicked out from under public utilities, whether that's trains, water, power, etc. Then they either fail, get bailed out, or get forced nationalized. And so, this just seems like a particularly fast and cruel swing of the axe.
The government are Marxist-Leninist accelerationists. They just want to nationalize every company. They're destroying the economy from within.
Yeah, Milo, you said this an episode or two ago. You were talking. We now know through very useful experimental conditions exactly what the failure cycle of water infrastructure is, and it's about 15 years, right? We've done that experiment.
Well, I think Alice said that actually, but yes.
But and this is just I sort of saw this statistic in the papers today, which is a record high 23.6% adults rate their anxiety the previous day from being asked as high. Right? You wonder why that is. It's because of shit like this.
Right, you've got to stop filling out these surveys.
It's because
Anxiety Riley, a statistical outlier. It's you and me. It's just you and me. But no, I get it,
me
though.
A free Monster Energy every time I fill out the anxiety survey. So then I fill out another one, but I just keep getting more anxious.
It's like a genuine sort of like breakdown in trust in an institution that needs to be like worthy of trust and confidence, right? Like if you're trying to get the train back, you need to know that you will like not be left stranded in the middle of nowhere in like the middle of the night. And you don't know if you're going to be able to get a train to where you're going, even vaguely near the time it's promising you.
You don't know whether you're going to be able to get home or get to start a new life in Kendall.
Exactly.
This is it. Yeah. End up in Kettering with Quaaludes Acaster.
And
so the issue is
Join
that
me in the ticket office sauna. Pull off my tits. I've taken so many Quaaludes, I don't even know who Captain Tom is. I don't even know who's sucking my dick.
Every time I go to London for a live show, I'm like, well, not even slightly, I'm terrified because I'm like, am I going to get there in time? Am I going to get back in time? Am I going to have to make a new life for myself in Kettering or Kendall? I don't know, and no one knows, and it's incredibly frustrating and frightening.
Bearing in mind the experience for a lot of disabled for many disabled passengers now, if you're in a wheelchair or various sort of ways that you have to get around, that's the experience for most passengers in terms of they hopefully when they arrive at a station, the chances are they've had to phone ahead to check that someone's there, which that's not independent travel. So they phoned ahead. If they're getting on the train in London, say, or a big city, and they're getting off in a rural or a smaller station, they have no idea whether the person's going to be at that platform with a ramp when they get off, or they're just going to have to take the train to end up in Kendall or Kettering. This is the experience for everyone, and what we're doing is doing that, but everywhere now because we're getting rid of the booking offices.
The ableism is spreading. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And, this is...
Perhaps people could learn to do cool jumps in their wheelchairs. A small ollie would help you.
And if you want to go back to that sort of anxiety statistic, I think it's no surprise that it's up. It's no surprise that it's up around more people because
what if you have to get to work? Well, you just have no guarantee that you're going to be able to.
Mm-hmm. Because you see the, let's say, the things that you depend on to live eroding around you. And when you're more anxious, you tend to be more easily, let's say, alienated, and you tend to be more able to fall into the beliefs and habits of an extremely alienated, anxious person.
Yeah, plus all these Visigoths are gathering across the Rhine, and a lot of them are speaking like late Latin, which is getting pretty concerning.
Yeah. In Britain, you're like slowly being painted into a corner where you're just being yelled at by the government from different directions. It's like, don't get ill. There's no sick pay. Can I see a doctor? Of course you fucking can't. Don't drive. Don't drive into the town, you fucking bastard. You're killing the planet. It's going to cost you £1 million. The roads are fucked. Don't fucking drive your car into the town, you prick. Can I get a train or a bus? Of course you fucking can't. Stop asking me stupid questions. Fly there on an umbrella like Mary Poppins, you stupid prick.
I want to talk a little bit about the health system now, actually, now that you've mentioned that.
Are you disabled? Don't be. That's my advice. Get bionic legs. I don't know what to tell you. You can't get them on the NHS. Get Honda to rebuild you like the $6 million man. I hate to be. It can't be any better than this. I'm sorry. I'm overworked. I'm the one guy that runs Britain. I've been given no resources.
How many monsters have you had today?
Sorry?
How many monsters have you had today?
Oh, yeah, a lot.
Monsters energy.
There are a lot of monsters in my mind.
Oh.
We have a few more minutes, and I want to talk actually about the health service and the Tony Blair Global Institute
something else
for
that's
Regime
going
Change.
well.
Huh.
Okay.
The Tony Blair Global Memorial Sauna.
Okay, that's it. We are only ever referring to it as the Tony Blair Global Memorial Sauna.
Global implies a
forever.
frightening scale of this sauna as well.
Well, to be fair, climate change,
Yeah.
Well, that's the one that has Saddam Hussein at the bottom.
So this is the Tony Blair Global Memorial Sauna has published a new report on the NHS and what they think it has to do and be. And you can see echoes of the train debacle, the Great Train debacle.
Oh, yeah.
in
Ronnie
these
Biggs
proposals.
and the Great Train debacle.
So I'm going to read some of the foreword. It says, we have the technological and scientific means to transform health and care to safeguard the founding principles of beverage and Bevan. So we're not safeguarding service levels, just founding principles, which have nothing to do with service level.
Wait, mate, how about you respect the fundamental privileges of beverage? You fucking wetter.
Jostling the drink out of your hand in a pub in Brixton.
That's another one of my favorites. You don't do that one enough.
I need you to sink that, you fucking wetter. Before we carry on.
Without fully embracing the tech revolution, Blair goes on, there is no future for the NHS. The post-war generation was liberated by the creation of the NHS and by the transitive property. Of course, I'm
just that sentence. Sorry, I just have my mind because that sentence is just like that is everything we've talked about, isn't it? Without fully embracing the tech revolution, there is no future for the square brackets ... You literally just copy and paste railways in there. It's just such a classic line.
And the tech revolution means not actually investing. It means removing.
No future other than the sort of cockamamie bullshit one we've cooked up for you.
Yeah, you've got to embrace the tech revolution. You're not embracing any solutions. It's just the actual idea of a revolution. You have to embrace that, which doesn't bring anything, but you have to embrace that.
No, you can't see a doctor. We've replaced him with a computer. It's not even a good computer. I'm sorry. That's all I've been given is an Acorn from the 90s. The nurse now, she's an iPad, but like an old one. Your mum is a fucking T-Mobile sidekick. Look, there's nothing I can do.
I like that he's sort of apologetic.
Yeah.
But what you have to replace
is like the one civil servant who's left.
Is he really far away? Like, have they put him really far away as well?
He's
just
like
shouting
locked in a sort of like Warhammer 40k style moving dreadnought sauna.
He's locked in the ticket office.
Yeah.
And they
She's also a sauna.
And they threw away the key, so he's in a sauna ticket. But he's like incredibly stressed about it.
Yeah, because he's kind of like a sacrificial lamb. Like he's the man who runs Britain, but Britain is so badly run due to all of the underlying conditions that we also hate him. So he lives in a sort of bureaucratic oubliette, like at the bottom of a well.
Right, and his job and part of his job is that he's the guy that everyone's supposed to get mad at for their various grievances.
He's quasi-Quango.
Yeah. So anyway, what I was saying is
it's not the sort of joke I usually do on this podcast.
Civil servant, but quasi Quango is substantially better. Yeah,
the hunchback civil servant.
So the tech revolution you have to embrace is just faith in magic. It is, to me, it is someone who is gambling and chasing losses, but using my money, essentially. And I'm kind of mad about it.
Yeah, me too. It's annoying.
Just like you try and get some of your money back from him, and he's like, I'm on a hot streak.
However, over the years, other realities have emerged, and the NHS now requires fundamental reform or support for it will diminish.
Other realities have emerged is such a join me in the brain dojo line.
If the NHS cannot provide timely care, if the waiting lists are long, seeing a GP is difficult, then people who can pay will pay.
Tony Blair, you fucking what do you mean if? It already is that, and you know it's that because you're a large part of the reason why it is that.
That is why in the past few years, the number of people using private health providers have rocketed. And that's actually something I think we can come back to the train example. What that's going to say is, why not use private transport instead of a train?
Exactly.
Why not drive more? Right? Because
like Mark Harper, who's the Secretary of State for Transport, has literally said this. He has said these words. He has said, well, actually, people drive. We're the Department of Transport. We're not the Department of Trains. We should be more pro-car. It's like, oh, golly. Oh, my. Okay. Have you seen the shape of our society? Have you seen how little people have ability? Have you seen the fact that, contrary to popular opinion, like the bottom 20% of people that do not have the ready access to a car in the way that the middle classes do? It's just, it's headbang. Anyway, sorry, Riley, go on.
It means that in order to produce a public good, state authority has to be used. People need to be compelled. So if you just enable people to do what they do according to their means, then everything falls fucking apart. Then you lose things like a train, and then all of a sudden, all the good things that even car owners enjoy from trains go away. All of the externalities that even the wealthy enjoy from the NHS go away. It's not saying that that's why you need it, but that's the point of public goods is they require the exercise of authority. If people are using private healthcare, it doesn't mean that they prefer it. It means that the exercise of authority at an institutional and social level has diminished to the point where the public good can no longer be maintained.
Yeah. And it's absolutely applicable to any public service. Any of the public services out there absolutely applies across the board.
So, there are two major differences between healthcare in the late 20th century and healthcare into the third decade of this century. Both are consequences of the technological revolution. The first is how people live today. They operate digitally, they make choices continually, and want to control their own lives rather than have others do it for them, which again says they do not want to participate in a public good because we provided a public good that's bad on purpose.
There's no such thing as a society.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, that's it.
And the second is that massive advances in life sciences is going to hugely accelerate over the coming years of the artificial intelligence revolution.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, exactly. So
This does feel like it was written by an AI, actually.
So therefore, we need a health service that fundamentally changes the relationship between citizen and service, which is...
No, we don't.
Yeah, no, well, we do. It just needs to be good. It needs to be... We all here and everyone listening knows that we do need to change the relationship between provider and service by doing things like eliminating the fact that the arm's length body relationship, for example.
The population's 20% bigger and 20% older, and we've built no new hospitals. Like, that's the problem. Like, it's not rocket science. We're older. There are more of us. We need more hospitals.
Gareth, look, we had one factory, and it could either build hospitals or old people, and we've just done it building old people. Look, I don't know what to tell you. It's all we can do. The doctor's a fucking iPad. I've already told you. Learn to use the iPad doctor. It can't look up your arsehole. It's an iPad. Just answer the questions as best you can.
Milo, I'm now going to read you another paragraph.
Right.
We should use digital technology to change the relationship between citizen and service. Each person should have their own personal health account delivered through the NHS app. This will be owned by the patient and not the service, storing health data, including self-testing and self-diagnosis as such things become available.
Just become your own doctor. Do your own surgery.
This is worse than getting. Wait a minute. What? I've forgotten. What's the sign that's currently outside the Trashfuture offices? Which it's worse than the. It's worse. It's worse
now.
than it's worse than get the plumber to become your dentist. It's like this is now. No, you are going to become the doctor. You're becoming the dentist.
Gareth, let me read you another part of this speech.
We've removed the entire NHS budget and we've replaced it with a film, The 12th Man. You're going to be inspired by the story of a Norwegian commando who amputated his own fingers from frostbite and learned to become your own. So it's the best I could do.
Well, Gareth, a lot of basic health services can actually be delivered through pharmacies by employers or in gyms and supermarkets, making them easier to access.
Jesus Christ.
So yeah, what if your personal trainer was also performing a colonoscopy on you?
Yeah, why not? While you're lifting, you're like squatting, and he's just got his face under your ass, just like looking at you with a fucking sextant.
Yeah. So what the Tony Blair Institute for Global Sauna is promising, right? Is they're saying what we need to do is again imagine a health service that is so smoothed down that we don't have to have. We don't have to accommodate people outside of our preferred context. We don't have to imagine the complexity and locality that having a human-based, I fucking hate that I have to say human-based, actual public good gives you. Instead, we are going to operate a de minimis app-based service that is increasingly like, have you considered CBT? And then everyone who can pay for, have their employers pay,
neurologist.
or have their employer pay for health insurance, is then going to keep getting healthcare. In many ways, it seems like it's going to be worse than the American system.
Oh,
it's
no.
just baffling. And it's just, this is worse than some of the stuff that Sajid Javid or everyone's favorite Matt Hancock guy was saying. This is worse. This is like more dismantlery than it's just baffling. I mean, it's table stakes. I know this is table stakes. I know this is just always his deal, and I know that his flipping foundation has its tendrils horrifyingly into the current Labour Party. But it still doesn't make it any less absolutely aggravating to hear it.
I mean, the fact that everyone is only able to talk about reform, and by reform they mean the same thing as taking away the ticket offices. They mean we are going to take a thing away and hope technology fills the gap meaningfully. And if not, who cares?
Exactly. It's the same with the way we're tackling climate change. It's the wizard will fix it logic, right?
The logic is
wizard will fix it.
I was going to say the logic is like, well, if the technology fails, then it's not the issue is not that like removing the human element to, and especially to things like care, was the problem. You know, in the same way that we've talked about all the startups say, well, no, the technology will simply get better, and so if the first version fails, then the second version will succeed, and the second version fails, and the third version will succeed, and therefore, and so technology as sort of like a concept is very much, the best way to put it is like, it's the wizard. It's like ultimately like the wizard will solve the problem. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, the install wizard for the new NHS app, which only runs on Windows 95.
Yeah. So look, I think that's probably a good enough place to leave it, right? Which is that this is not just in the railways. It's just most visible in the railways now, but we can see shadows of that particular belief system all over the place. But I just want to say...
we didn't end on pudding. I was hoping we were going to end on pudding. I was so excited about pudding.
I mean, I think the NHS app stuff with Tony Blair was a little... You know what it was? It was like a salted chocolate. To me.
Okay, well, that's all the rage now, isn't it?
Very high
It's
class.
all the fucking modern rage. You take a fucking pudding and you make it salty. You take all the sugar out, you make it salty.
A savoury
They've
pudding.
made it salty to save money. Look, I don't know. You've not been paying attention. The doctor's a fucking iPad. The train guard is an iPad with a little braille sticker on it that says "Mind the Gap." Your pudding's an iPad. You're a fucking iPad. Relax.
Everybody just relax. You're all iPads. Just, you know what? Everyone's an iPad, and we're all just chilling in the sauna. Anyway.
Don't let your iPad get above 50 degrees centigrade.
Gareth, I want to once again thank you for making your billionth appearance on this show. It's always a delight to have you on.
Thank you. I'm very sweaty, much sweatier than I was at the start of the episode, and I wasn't the one doing all the shouting.
You've got the TF Black card now.
Yeah.
It allows you to access like the special floors of the Captain Tom onset.
Well, the TF enclosure at the Captain Tom onset.
You also get a special concierge service where like we'll do favors for you.
That is exciting.
You actually get to get sucked off by a World War II veteran.
Yeah. And one of us will do your dental work for you.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, excellent. Oh, thanks so much. Always such a pleasure to join you all.
Yeah, and you get this Trashfuture branded iPad, which is also your doctor.
I'd also like to remind everyone, please, to check out RailNatter on YouTube. We'll link it in the comments. Link in the comments. Note the show description. And also that we have
the comments as well. I just know I'll read it.
We
Please
have
like and
a
subscribe.
live show on the 26th of July in London.
Right. Beware, the 26th of July. Between the Bridges.
Don't beware. Do not beware of it. You should welcome it.
Be aware of it and attend the Trashfuture live show. There is a discount code for $10 patrons. It is on the Patreon. This show is over half sold, so do get buying those tickets.
You sort of went into Peter Cook a little bit there.
Yeah. Peter Cook. Oh, it's a little bit naughty.
Yes, that's right.
And if you're looking to see me do stand-up comedy anywhere, I'll be at the Edinburgh Fringe. I'm going to be doing a show in London on the 18th of July. Tickets for that, all on my website.
So come see Milo, come see us at the Fringe whenever those tickets get sold.
Yeah, 4th of August. Keep it free. I'm gonna chase them again now.
And let's see. Twitch stream. That's from 9 to 11. If you wanted to hear us talk about that Liz Jones article where she went to dinner with her husband.
That was like premium stream content. The stream is getting properly good, you check into slop.delivery in your browser.
My ex-husband, they turn him into an iPad.
Alice,
Yeah,
does
it works.
slop.delivery work?
It works.
Okay, good. So yeah, that is one of the recent VODs. Maybe we'll rename it or something, but if you want to see us talk about that article, that's where to go for it. Other than that, I think we'll just say, see you in a few short days on the bonus. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.